We all want to be happy. But what does this mean exactly? In this video, I'm going to look at Aristotle and Aquinas and look at their differing opinions on what it is that we're all seeking. They're both, in some sense, going to agree that it's happiness, but they're going to flesh that out quite differently. So let's start with Aristotle. He has a view in which we all pursue, well, some translators translate this as happiness, but that's an unfortunate translation, I think, because normally when we think happiness, we think of a subjective feeling or state, like I just want to feel good. That's not what he means by happiness. He uses the word eudaimonia, which means something, I think a better translation would be something like human flourishing. And why the human in front of the flourishing? Well, because you're a human when you're flourishing, but also because flourishing as humans flourish. It's not just flourishing the way I choose, the way I want to. There is flourishing as the member of the human species. So, just like plants, it takes certain things for plants to flourish, a certain amount of sunlight, certain soil, and integrity and watering and so on. But that is objective features of the plant that makes it flourish. All plants need that. Humans are like that. So when it comes to human flourishing, although some people may require in different degrees, there are going to be certain objective things that humans need in order to flourish or need to do or obtain, let's say. For Aristotle, those are going to be the virtues. Aquinas agrees with him so far in this. Now, when it comes to eudaimonia, as I said, this is a translation. It's sometimes translated as to flourish, to live well, to do well. Sometimes translated as to be happy. Now, this is probably what we mean when, parents say, I just want you to be happy. Maybe you were fortunate enough to have a parent who said, I don't mind what you do in your life. I just want you to be happy. They probably meant this. They probably didn't just mean have a subjective feeling or state of mind that you just persistently are in, right? Because I can obtain a persistent state of feeling good if I were just on hard drugs, or if I just, to take a less extreme example, just hook myself up to virtual reality all day. I could have a real persistent sense, pleasantness, but that's not what parents mean when they want you to just be happy. Then if that were the case, they would just lobotomize you. You would be happy in a sense because you would have very low expectations of what it took for you to be happy. You would be happy. You would be easily pleased, let's say, but certainly you would not be living a good life. What they mean, rather, is that I want you to be happy in the sense of watching you flourish. I want you to be objectively happy. You could think of this as objective happiness versus subjective happiness. And you may have never heard it put that way, but you have this already in your mind. I mean, this distinction. Imagine, for example, you have a friend who is in a bad relationship and she comes to you and she says, I'm happy, but you know the truth. You know that that's just like her subjective feeling. She thinks that she's happy. And were she to get out of that bad relationship, she herself would look back and say, you know what, I wasn't truly happy. That is, I thought I was happy. I felt good, but I wasn't in a good place, right? And that's what eudaimonia is. It's being in a good place such that you're flourishing. And if you're in a good place and you're flourishing and doing well, then subjective happiness will follow very often. That's the idea. So this, for Aristotle, is the ultimate telos for human beings. I just use the word telos. Telos, T-E-L-O-S. It means something like end. It's always translated as end or goal or purpose, something that we aim at. And our actions are all aimed at something, right? But he's thinking of, something that are, no matter what actions you have, or no matter who you are, all of our actions aim at this thing. So that will be happiness. So let me give you an example. A ship building activity, there is such an activity of this action of shipbuilding. What does that aim at? Well, it aims at having, at the end of the process, a ship. Or what about economics? Why would one engage in such a discipline of economics? Well, in order to build wealth? Or what about military strategy? That's an activity. That's a human activity, a military strategy. Well, I engage in such an activity. Watch what's happening. I engage for the purpose of, I'm aiming towards, as my end, right? I'm aiming towards something. That would be the telos. This is the activity, the military strategy. I'm aiming towards success in this case. That would be the telos, right? Or with medicine, what am I aiming towards? I'm aiming towards health. I engage in the practice of medicine so that I achieve health. So you can apply this to any human activity whatsoever. Every human activity will have some end, and regardless of what the human activity is, it will always all have an end. But ends are quite multiple. There's all kinds of them. We just went over a few. All right, strategy, wealth, health, and so on and so on. A ship. So it's not clear, if we just think about that, like, what is it that they all have in common? But Aristotle was able to see through all this and realize, well, no matter what it is that you do, and human activity that humans do, all of us are chasing after something. And that his view is flourishing. Do you want to live well? You want to do well? You want to be happy? And the easy way to see this is, take, for example, when I teach this with my students, I imagine all of them and I tell them this, you guys are all majoring in all these sorts of different things, and maybe it's nursing, maybe it's pre-law, maybe it's computer science, maybe it's history, but you're all majoring in something different. That is, the human activity you're doing is quite various. But why is it that you're doing that thing? And if I were to ask you that over and over and over, ask you, well, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And I just follow that line of questioning to its logical conclusion. I might get, oh, well, I want to help, take care of people, like if you're doing nursing, or I want to make bank, I want to be a doctor, or I want to, build my own company and provide for my family, or I want to get back to my community, whatever. Every single one of these ends that are also various will have something in common, a further end, which is because I want to be happy, right? Ask that question over, why you want to major in nursing? Well, because I want to provide for my family. I want to also take care of people. Well, why do you want to do that? Because, if I take care of people, it makes me happy. Or maybe you want to be a finance banker. Why do you want to do that? I want to make money. I want to get back to my community. Why do you want to do that? I want to provide for my family. Well, because it makes me happy in order to do that. So that is the rock bottom explanation. It's really insightful of Aristotle to see that no matter what explanations we can give for the purpose for which why we do things, everything will culminate in eventual eudaimonia. Like, this would be the rock bottom explanation. I'm doing this because I want to flourish as a human being. Now, just making sure we're still on there. Now, Aquinas, you notice what I said with Aristotle, you may notice I said that that's the ultimate telos for human beings. Human beings' ultimate purpose in life is to flourish. Aquinas is going to say yes and no. Aquinas will agree that that is a really important telos, but he's going to call that our natural telos. That is, with respect to our natural lives here on earth, the here and now, absolutely. That's what all of our actions and all of our ends aim towards. We aim towards flourishing. Thomas is writing in the Latin, so he, instead of using eudaimonia, which is a Greek word, he uses the word felicitas, but it can easily translate as happiness, and he means exactly the same thing that Aristotle means when he says eudaimonia. They both easily translate to happiness, but it's much deeper than that. It's the idea that there's a lasting, doing well, living well, you're in a great place, you're flourishing, you're great in life. But that is only one part of the picture. For Aquinas, he has not only the natural telos, but he disagrees. Aristotle thinks that's the ultimate telos. Aquinas thinks something else is the ultimate telos, the ultimate end for human beings. For human beings, it's not just that we want to do well in life and live well and be happy. Aquinas is also interested in the hereafter, not just the here and now, doing well in this life, but the hereafter. He's interested in eternity. And this is one massive difference that we see in the way he identifies the different telos in human beings, what he identifies as the ultimate telos. But he identifies the ultimate telos not as eudaimonia. He identifies it as beatitude, or in the Latin, beatitudo. So he considers this translates as something like blessedness. And Catholics will, in Catholic theology, Catholic thinking, they think of it as, they'll sometimes use the phrase beatific vision, that idea that you see God face to face, but you don't just see God, you are in God's presence. The maker and author and creator of all reality, you're face to face with him. That is your ultimate purpose. You want to get to heaven. You want to be in the presence of God, his glory. That is what our ultimate telos is. Now, that's only one way in which their virtue ethics differ. I want to talk about a couple different ways. And I mentioned on in my last video, one way that this comes out is in their differences on the view of magnanimity. So I want to talk about magnanimity, I want to talk about courage, and I want to talk about magnificence, which is an interesting virtue. These are all three virtues, but both Aristotle, who was first, and Aquinas, who came later, they both agree that these three are virtues, but they're going to conceptualize them differently. So let's start with courage, actually. Courage, as you know, is just not being a coward, having real bravery. That's what courage is, right? You don't want to go overboard, be a foolhardy, rash, or anything, but having proper courage. And so the difference between Aristotle and Aquinas is Aristotle takes the paradigm example of courage to be the soldier, because this is someone who would sacrifice their life. They face the greatest natural evil, the evil of death. So Aquinas, he's going to say, yes, I agree with you. That's what courage is, facing evil and standing up and being brave in spite of it. And the greatest natural evil is death. But his paradigm example is not the soldier. For Aristotle's a soldier. For Aquinas, again, Aquinas doesn't have only the view of the here and now, he has the hereafter. So it will be facing the evil of death, but it won't be the soldier, it'll be the martyr who, it's one thing to die in battle for one's country, but it's quite another thing to die with eternity at stake, right? So that is the context in which Aquinas understands this. Both will acknowledge, of course, it's not just those people who have courage, but those are the paradigm cases, okay? In the last video, we looked at magnanimity, which can translate to something like great-souled, having a great soul, and something like stepping into the greatness to which you're called. And I explained this in the last video, you can go back and watch it if you like. For Aristotle, who's more focused with the social dimension, it will be something like this. It'll be, if your father was a senator, his father was a senator, his father was a senator, then you've got big shoes to fill, because it's probably expected of you that you'll be a senator, just like that. And so you can shrink back from that greatness, or you can rise to that greatness and step in those shoes and do so knowing that you can fulfill that role because you're able to do it. You can, of course, go overboard and be vainglorious or vanity or vainglory, right? That would be the excess. Now, that's for Aristotle. For Aquinas, what this looks like is having proper self-estimation of oneself, not thinking too lowly of oneself, thinking rightly about oneself. This would be having magnanimity in this respect. Everybody has the image of God in them. They are all great because God's image is reflected through his creation, and in human beings in a very special and profound way. We resemble our Creator, the God and the King of the universe. And so that is a great mantle to take on, and it's a great responsibility, and it's a wonderful thing. And this combats against things like, I don't think I'm that great. All right. So that's magnanimity. What about magnificence? Magnificence, so it uses the same prefix, magna. And you might think magnificent, what is it to be magnificent? It's just kind of to look great, to feel great. It's not just that, right? Or it's not that at all, really. So the prefix here is magna, great, But what does that second part mean? It comes from the root in Latin. It can go fic, fec, or fac. So fic as in fiction, or fac as in factory, or fec as in fecundity. They all involving sort of making or doing something. So magnificence then would be a great making or a great doing, right? Yeah. And in other places we see that this is considered like at great costs to oneself, sacrificing greatly. But it's not sacrificing one's life. It would be something short of that, but it's kind of like that. Now, magnificence then, for Aristotle, it'll look like this. A great making, great doing at a great cost to you would be something like, again, and just in the social political dimension, would be probably like, I don't know, constructing a building or a public monument and slapping your name on it, correct? Like you get the credit for that. And it came at a great cost to you, right? But you get the tax break, you get all that, and you get the glory, right? So that to build that up would be to practice that sort of thing, to give great gifts that will benefit others. But again, that's only in the social political sphere. It comes with its benefits and so on, its payoffs and so on in this sphere, but it came at a great cost to you nonetheless. And so it was a sacrifice in some sense. Now, what about for Aquinas? Or because for Aristotle, that's purely social political. You're doing it for the community. You're contributing at great cost to you personally. What about for Aquinas? Well, again, he has the eternal in mind. He has the hereafter in mind. He has eternity. He has standing in the presence of God in mind. So his conception of great making will have to do with some kind of sacrifice at great cost to you in view of eternity. And this may be something like, it could be martyrdom, but that's probably courage proper. It's probably something short of martyrdom, like someone like Mother Teresa, for example, who gives up health and home and dedicates your life, right? So it could be just a priest in general. It could be just somebody who takes on the religious vocation as a nun or a sister or a priest or a monk, somebody who sacrifices greatly and gives up a lot at great cost in order to do a great thing, and ultimately with eternity in mind. So those are just three examples of virtues. We had courage first, then we looked at magnanimity, and then we looked at magnificence. And prior to that, we looked at the difference between Aristotle and Aquinas in terms of their telos, their understanding of what the ultimate telos for human being is. So, all that said, that although there are some other differences, and they're quite alike in their virtue ethics and in the rest of their philosophical systems, there are sneaky differences in between Aristotle's view of ethics and the human being and Aquinas' view of those things. So quite fascinating, interesting. So that's all for this video. If you like this content, please do me a favor and subscribe. That way you see what next video is all about. And I'd love to hear back from you. So if you want to leave a comment, then just let me know how you like this video, this content that you've seen, what you do like, what you don't like, and if you want to see more, or if you want to, I'll take requests, anything that you would like to hear about, then I'd love to hear from you. So, all right, see you next time. Take care.